I'm thinking of a new Jamaica. One filled with opportunities, options, and access for all Jamaicans globally and in the diaspora. When I think of Montego Bay, riddled with crime, Kingston, 6 people shot, 3 dead. When I think of our young people or students at schools, not in a position where they're safe, a guard ring. The young man recently died at William Knibb High School because of a guard ring. What kind of Jamaica are we looking at? Do we want a Jamaica where we can't have a conversation and can't have a dispute and not resort to crime? It's not pretty out there, Jamaica. Our children are marred by crime and violence. Our mothers or fathers don't have much option for our sons and daughters for them to get a better education. Crime has plagued us for decades. Are we going to continue on that pathway? Or are we going to have that discussion about what is right, what is moral, what is ethical, and what is principled? We have a corrupt police force. A police force where police are involved with dons and gangs. Pastors, entertainers, all called up in this conversation about donmanship, crimemanship, and poverty. Jamaica, it's not pretty. It's not pretty out there. It really not pretty out there. When I think of where we are coming from, 60 years now, we should have had one of the better economies in the region. 60 years now, we should have had one of the best educational systems compared to that of Singapore. 60 years now, we should have had a system where justice is not for the man uptown and the man downtown is denied justice. I am fed up. I am fed up. I am annoyed by what we're having as a Jamaica. So Jamaica, let us have that conversation today on Unfiltered. Without vision, the people will surely perish. Roger,
Yes,
welcome.
sir. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
But Roger, we need to have a conversation about a new and better Jamaica. The pillars of development for any society takes into account education, a reformed justice system, an economic system that makes it equitable for all. What's your take on that, Roger?
I agree that if it is that we're going to look at a new Jamaica, that we certainly have to shake up all the different tenets of what makes a society functional.
For the past 2 years, we have had a COVID reality. And approximately 20,000 students can't access educational opportunities through the use of technology. And recently our students are back at school. The Minister of Education said she needs to do more to carry her students back up to the pace. So is this a case that our students have become more dull or duller? What is it that we're seeing, Roger? Are we going to be doing more? But then there's a problem, Roger. We have had a system where the Minister of Education and the principal of CMU was alleged to be involved in a serious state of corruption. 124 million taken out of the Ministry of Education. And a permanent secretary is just asked to be placed on leave, Roger. Why is it that we can't ask them to come out? Why can't we take them out of that system? Why can't we take them out? Out and we pay them off, Roger? Pay them off? Pay them off? What are we paying them off for? What are we paying them off for, Roger? What Grace McLean still? Why can't we take off?
Ensure that it is operating within the law.
Within the law.
Can't be draconian and can't just be pandering to the sentiments of the public opinion. It has to ensure that it is treating its workers in the best possible way.
But
so
Roger,
you can't just up and fire people because you may have some idea.
It's not an
they
idea.
Have broken rules and regulations.
It's not an idea.
Well, it's not.
It's
proven
not
in the courts.
an idea. It's more than an idea. It is the
and to my knowledge,
is,
some of those things are even now still being investigated.
But investigated for how long?
I can't say when.
Investigated to the point where public officials who are alleged to be involved in corruptions are still getting pay. Vic Spinnock is still receiving pay from CMU, and yet still there's a principal at CMU that is also being paid. So you're being double paid because what? You have to make some man feel good. No, Roger, I am not from that school. You shouldn't be from that school because your mother, your father worked them blood, sweat, and tears for you to be equitable and get a better education.
Maybe when and if these persons are found to be guilty.
They must pay we back. They must pay back the money.
Maybe we should then levy a lawsuit to them. But
why
not?
No,
they are not guilty.
So, all right then. So they must keep the money until. Keep the monies then, Roger. Until. Keep the monies
and
until.
Where there is governmental
will. Where are shortcomings.
We take them to court to recoup the cost.
You know that is just wishful thinking, right, my friend? That is just wishful thinking. But
Andre, I mean, I think you muddy the waters when you just look at education and then you jump right into corruption. I mean, if you're talking about a new Jamaica, what for you is a marker for education?
Thank you for that. The mark of a true and reformed education system is one where every child can learn and every child must learn. Roger, the young man and the little pick them there, Trenchtown, might not necessarily want to be a part of an education system that sees to it that they do maths, English, and the sciences daily. But the truth is, these children down Trenchtown are creatives. These children down Trenchtown can become great artists, cosmetologists. They can be the greatest makeup artist. They can be the greatest artists, the filmmakers. They can be a part of a Jamaica where they're doing coding. They can be a part of a Jamaica where we're talking about agriculturalists. We're having a serious food. We're having a serious food crisis right now.
There are areas. Maybe the issue that you're talking about is more for us to form intentional links with these, because heart is the type of programs you offer in vocational skills training exist in the system already.
Yeah, but Roger,
the areas you talk about in terms of agriculture, we have a thriving college that does agriculture.
Where one?
We have a thriving college that focus on the arts and the performing arts.
But let us carry the conversation.
The question is, are we using them?
Let us carry the conversation further. Where are these institutions, Roger? These institutions are at the tertiary level. Why don't we have specialized institutions in every parish for the arts, for agriculture? Why are we not having a conversation of a GC Foster College being in every parish for those at the secondary level? Why are we not having a football academy that can speak to our students being a part of a system where they can learn football at another level, teach them at another level the art of sports? Roger, the conversation is we need to change some of our schools from schools that are just structured schools into specialized schools. For instance, Roger, St. Catherine High School is a school that focuses a lot on the arts. But the truth is, many of us as students were asked to do sciences, business, and math. But the truth is, Spice and the Angel made millions through what? Being artists. Imagine if we had schooled them from as early as grade 7 to grade 13. What kind of musicians and entertainers they could have become. The truth is,
they probably wouldn't be any better musician because the market is demanding what they're offering.
No, Roger, but there is the business of music. And many of our artists have never learned the business of music. The business of music is more...
And Shensia are the ones who are knowledgeable and savvy in business.
But the Spice and the Shensia understand it because of what? They have management. Many of these young artists that wants to go to other places don't have that kind of management. They don't have that kind of leadership and nourishment that can carry them to the next level. I am saying to you, Jamaica, and to you, Roger, and to those in the diaspora, don't you want to have a conversation about a Jamaica that despite being in the inner cities, you can be a part of the winner cities? The truth is, Roger, I would want to have a Jamaica where I can learn agriculture from as early as 7, 8, and 9 grade that can boom this country into a new direction. Why we need to have a conversation about reducing our importation bill. How can we reduce our importation bill when at the same time we're not teaching Jamaicans to eat what we grow and grow what we eat? All of our students are caught up in KFC, Burger King, Popeyes, and all the things of Domino's. Roger, that kind of culture is not what we want. The philosophies of Michael Manley spoke to A New Jamaica, where agriculture was a foundation, where healthcare and education were the tenets of true development. Are we seeing it here now, my brother?
I would think so. I think there's emphasis on agriculture just the same.
Where?
I just think that the issues with capitalism, it does affect how, as a country, we produce. We can afford to compete in the process. And that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. The world is what it is. We are fully fledged capitalists. And in that situation...
We need to have this conversation about Jamaica. Has capitalism failed us?
That's a good question.
Has capitalism in this country failed us? We need to have more of an equitable system wherein which all Jamaicans can have access to housing and land. We need to have a Jamaica, Roger, where not just cheap labor, but I'm glad you speak about capitalism. Has cheap labor and capitalism failed us? Why is it that we can't have a conversation? Why is it that we can't have a conversation, Roger, about a Jamaica in which where these investors have come here and raped our system for years? Roger, let us be unfiltered with that discussion.
In my mind, we are in a knowledge economy. And if the people who come here to share their practices don't leave any knowledge behind, then we are always going to be in the situation where we are. The question is, when Asia is able to pattern knowledge from what was left from the whole exploitation of labor, why the Caribbean, especially Jamaica, year after year do the same thing, but they still don't get the knowledge that they're supposed to get to lift their own industries? So all we do is business come in, they do a little 5-year work, as soon as they're supposed to pay tax, they run away. Why don't we ensure when these companies come in that we place competent people at all different levels, including management?
You know what?
Why don't we do this?
What made me surprised? Recently, a Spanish hotel, Roger, after so many years of Spanish being in our tourism sector, the middle manager, middle manager,
not even not much,
middle
manager,
a middle manager was just named, and there was a big
Jamaican middle manager,
Jamaican middle manager. So you're going to say that all of these foreign direct investments come here, and they just rape, ravish, and just carry it back where? To Spain, to China, to England, to Italy.
Are happy.
No, to Russia.
But Jamaicans are happy.
Jamaicans are happy that living on a minimum wage of $9,000.
We hire people. The companies hire people.
But hire people. Let us look at it. The BPO sector is in terrible turmoil, where we have cheap labor, $3.
But people are going
$2.50.
Andre, people are going on with money in their pockets.
But what kind of monies, Roger? These monies are not making our situation any better.
So, Andre, I take the point. as it relates to the middle manager and what that entails. But I also want to share on this point that it's not just the idea of hotels that are at fault and the investors. Possibly it's also our government and the policies that would allow hotels like this to run to ravage
Minister,
our policies. So my thing is, we have to look at the policy side of things.
Minister Ed Bartlett, you know, I've always said that the tourism ministry is under good ministerial management. However, more can be done in terms of policy positions, in terms of our investors.
Well, Andre, you talk about the New Jamaica, so what is your way forward?
The New Jamaica for me, Roger, is one in which the top tier leadership of our hotels, at least a percentage must be Jamaican. What about 30% Jamaican to that of 70% foreign investors? The conversation about education must be one that speaks to an inclusive education system, Roger.
So
where we have diversification.
So you're creating almost kind of an ecosystem.
An ecosystem.
When you talk about these investors coming in and now investing in the education system, so these people are now getting kind of real life knowledge. They are now getting some of the best kind of mentorship from some of the best actors in the world. And the funny thing is, I'm seeing that kind of landscape. I'm excited.
From our high school system, we can find hotel workers as early. The chefs, the housemaids, and all of these students who can be feeders into the hotel working system. Minister Bartlett, but what about training more of our students at the university level to be top tier managers in these hotels? Not just sous chefs. What about...
It's more than that, because if you start getting people exposed to hotel business earlier in their development, it's more likely that they're going to innovate.
Innovate and create.
So they're going to have spin-off industries that can support these hotels.
Even in the conversation about a new Jamaica, we want to have a conversation with the Minister of Education, Honorable Minister Favour Williams. I heard recently you spoke about the sixth form system. The sixth form system needs to have more of a diverse system where students can plan their careers as early as 14, 15, and it can be a feeder system right up to the university level. The sixth form system shall be about career advancement and not about just making Caribbean studies and communication skills just the order of the day. But we need to have that conversation. We need to have a conversation with the Minister of Agriculture. The Minister of Agriculture, Sir Pernell Charles Jr. We need to speak about lands and land reform, diversifying our lands to make it more equitable to farmers and those who are at Blue Mountain, whose lands have been ravished and plunged and taken away from them.
But access for farmers who want to farm and can't find land to farm.
But then we need to have a conversation about making farming attractive. Many of your young people no longer see farming as lucrative, Roger. They see what as lucrative? Scamming, looting, and thieving. They want to braff. But then what I'm saying to the Minister of Agriculture, the youngster said investment over braffing. The Prime Minister in his recent budget presentation spoke about youngster and Black Hero. Why aren't these young people asked to go on a campaign right across the high schools asking more young people to be involved in what? Agriculture and the creative industries. The truth is, investment must be over braffing, but it takes the fulsome development of the government, the families, the schools, investors, and stakeholders. So I'm going to say to you, we have developed a conversation on the superstructures being education, healthcare, the economic advancement of the whole human race. But it's a sad thing that so many Jamaicans have been exploited, ravished, and raped. It is a sad thing that after 60 years, my mother still is living in a rent house. It's a sad thing that after 60 years, many people still have no access to land titles. Many people don't have access to banks and accounts. Many people don't have access to investments. Jamaica, it's a sad thing. It's a conversation that we need to pick up on if we want to have a new and better Jamaica. Are we going to say, yes, we're better off because we have a cell phone? I am not better off because at age 30, I'm still living in a rent house. I am not better off because at age 30, I have a government that is not held accountable. I am not better off. You are not better off. We are not better off. Jamaica, this is Unfiltered. Stay tuned. Joining us is renowned attorney at law, Mr. Miguel Lorne, a reparations activist, a talk show radio host, and a truly authentic Jamaican. Mr. Lorne, how are you, my elder?
I'm giving thanks, greetings and blessings. Welcome to all.
Bless you.
Thanks.
Mr. Lorne, we're here having a fulsome discussion today about a new Jamaica. Can you tell Jamaica and the diaspora, when you think of modern Jamaica, where have we gone wrong?
We have gone wrong, starting with presently, we don't have a democratic system in Jamaica. And that has been portrayed around the world and within by all different leaders and so on. And it is not true.
So, Mr. Lorne,
yes.
When you say we don't have a democratic system, but of course the people then vote PNP and JLP and select their prime minister and members of parliament. Can you expound on what you defined as a democratic system?
A democratic system, what we have in Jamaica is presently a system of blatant, open, obvious vote buying.
Vote buying.
Vote buying. It is scandalous. I mean, let me give you an example. When you see election coming up, and you see people doing some, for example, some road work, some bushing work on the road, and they are dressed in their party colors, their party, their MP T-shirt, their armbands.
So you say the vote buying is the debushing, and there's some truth to that. Because I recall...
Tremendous, yes.
I recall one time a year in a Kingston and St. Andrew near 600 odd million. Downtown alone where them said how much debushing a happen. And I don't see where down a West Kingston, Central Kingston and all them places for debush and de-gully. And when we look back at the places, Mr. Lorne, you know what you're talking about. Tell Jamaica what is happening with this so-called money spending and vote buying.
Yes, it's very bad, and it is the root of corruption in Jamaica. We must solve that problem before we can solve the other corruptible problems. Because and it is so obvious, we should not pay 1 single cent more as payment to the political ombudsman.
So you're saying we need to get rid of the political ombudsman?
Yes, she's doing no work.
Donna Parchment, bro.
She should be investigating these things and helping to prevent it. It is so blatant, so obvious. And you see, if you have a corrupt electoral system, then you have persons that are elected corruptly. And then those persons now, the way the Constitution and the laws are set, those persons have tremendous authority in electing other persons. But for example, it is the MP, it is the Parliament, it is the Prime Minister and those people that then elect the judges.
True.
Now, I think that the people of Jamaica must have greater say in the election of the Chief Justice, the selection of the Commissioner of Police, the selection of the Ombudsman, the selection of the Head of Indicom, the selection of the director of public prosecution
Wow.
and the selection of even parish judges. The people
Lauren.
must have some say in some of these.
Mr. Lauren, before you go there, because I think that is indeed the new Jamaica that you're painting, but you made a comment I'd like to follow up on. You made a critique, I suspect, of the Westminster system, given the fact that you say the nature of vote buying that is within the system. Now, several members of the Commonwealth, including developed countries like Canada and Australia, who have used the system, we have not seen that kind of blatant vote buying in those jurisdictions. So isn't it then a case of the Jamaican people that we ought to blame rather than the politicians and the government? Isn't it a case where Jamaicans have then opened themselves up for bribery, wanting bribery, forcing politicians to give them bribe? Isn't that the case that we have to then deal with?
I disagree. But Mr. Lauren, respond to that, please, because I'm going to fix Roger business.
Fully. In other words, whatever the system practice in Australia, Canada, and other places, I don't know the depths of it. I don't know how they have their system in terms of influencing, because they might very well have. But I can speak cogently regarding Jamaica, and this is where I'm concentrating on at the moment.
Yes.
That in Jamaica, unless we solve it, I'm not so much condemning the Westminster system as such. What I'm condemning is that as long as you have this blatant vote buying in this country, a road is not fixed for 5 years. And shortly before an election, you see bulldozer and thing, and the road is fixed.
It is sad, Mr. Lauren.
I see persons from the constituency get vouchers to go to a particular hardware store, and they can collect zinc, plyboard, paint,
plyboard,
and other things.
True.
In other words,
black and steel.
Yes, black and steel. So all I'm saying is, and that now, if the head of the corruption is there, then the consequential flows, which follows when these same persons are the one that are selecting the head of important authorities in the country.
So, Mr. Lauren,
I'm just saying that has to change. I'll give you another simple example. The school boards in Jamaica. It's bad. It's politically oriented.
True.
It is politically selected.
True.
And so on. Almost all the school boards have some form of...
some political activists on it. It's true.
So, Mr. Lauren,
yes.
You've talked about democratizing how people are selected.
Public officials.
Judges, police commissioners. If the issues we have within the political system exist, does it really change how people will vote in that kind of democratization, though? The problem will still be the same. People will be bribed. People will misvote.
No.
Who will make that kind of informed decision you're talking about?
If people, let's start with the head. If people are free to vote for a particular member of parliament and so on, I am certain you will see a substantial difference, because that member of parliament now would have to answer to the people, and therefore he can't just appear on a certain day. He can't just do things in parliament and the very people in his constituency doesn't even know.
Mighty God.
In this present system in Jamaica, a member of parliament doesn't bring any issues to the people and ask for their
take on it.
Support or their thinking. He doesn't do that. He goes to parliament, and if his party says white, he votes white. If
and
his party
that
says blue, he votes blue.
Mr. Lauren, thank you for that.
A democratic system means, because your constituency might have a totally different view from you, but they don't even know how to implement their views.
True.
Because as it is at the moment, it is you go in parliament, and for example, if you are selecting the head of as to who is the head of who is the head of Indicom, or who is the public defender, the people do have no idea who it is.
They have never seen them.
Never seen them before, and this is where the corruption continues in a lot of instances.
You put the nail upon the head, Mr. Lauren. The truth is, Jamaicans are tired and fed up of this kind of system where a friend and company get position, Mr. Lauren. We see it all the time.
It is even more blatant in the legal profession.
Really?
We have a general legal council, which is made up of lawyers, and it is not a democratic thing at all. It's a friend invite a friend.
Wow!
It is disgraceful.
The General Legal Council, Mr. Lauren?
The General Legal Council is made up of persons whereby a friend invite a friend. In other words, I've been in the General Legal for over 40 years. I've never been asked to cast a vote.
Never? Over 40 years as a legal luminary. You have never been asked to cast a vote. As to whom?
I just get a letter.
No, man, Mr. Lauren. So how then them want to forget representation?
It's absolute. That's what I'm saying. That's how this
country. So it's be a friend and company.
It's a friend and company.
Lord
the
Jesus.
legal profession is worse than anywhere else.
The legal profession?
Yes.
Where they say justice must be for all?
Yes.
My God. No. Mr. Lauren, I want us to roll a little bit more. What is happening with all these kinds of reports of policemen involved in gangs? Yes. With ministers of government giving criminals guns? What's your take on that?
That is not surprising. It's not surprising. When you see the political parties, the conferences and all of that, and you see the known persons that are involved in questionable activities are the ones that mobilize the forces to bring the people to conferences. That's a common thing throughout.
So you are saying, Mr. Lauren, you wouldn't be surprised that 2 years from now, Bobby Montague is a minister of government again?
I wouldn't be surprised. No, I wouldn't be surprised at all of Bobby coming back and so on. But I don't want to single out Bobby. I want to say it's a general system that, because the aim of political parties, certainly with regards to the PNP and the JLP, is to best to keep winning elections.
So it's all about winning and not a matter of governance and government?
Not a matter of governance, not a matter of securing the people.
The people's interest.
And then the policemen now. Remember, policemen come from these communities same way. The police force is heavily politicized. There's no two-way about that.
Wow.
Persons are appointed to corporal, sergeant, inspector based on political connection, political affiliation. This is blatant in the police.
But Mr. Lauren, if this is the case, Roger, we're in a sad state.
We are, but this is why we have programs like this now, to air the views and to hopefully know that we can work towards it.
So, Mr. Lauren, you have a minute to tell Jamaica.
I touch on the education system. Our education system needs overhauling and complete eradication and a new system. When I say that, how can we in this day and age be teaching Shakespeare, Anne Frank Diary, and all these type of books in our schools?
Wow.
We having these books in our schools.
Where's the conversation about Black Pride? You know, where's the conversation about Marcus Garvey and the UNIA?
The philosophy and opinions of Marcus Garvey must be taught in school.
I agree.
They came before Columbus by Ivan van Sertima.
Ivan van Sertima. Mr. Lauren, you're putting me back in history class. I love that. And you know the funny thing about that? Yes, I'm a student of history. And the funny thing, as a Pan-Africanist, as a Pan-Africanist,
so that means you know African today up.
Yes, I do.
African origin of civilization. All these books must be part of the curriculum in our schools.
But Mr. Lauren, how do you deal with that when our children don't even want to learn about the history? Tell us in give us in 15 seconds.
Because we have structured them that way.
Wow.
If we had structured them in a way to understand that these histories are... If you talk to the average child in Jamaica, and you tell him that we were never slaves, he's going to be confounded.
Wow.
We were never slaves.
Mr. Lauren?
And they think that the history starts from slavery.
So,
because that's what they're taught in
you
school.
are saying, let us inculcate our children, and I thank you so much for joining this conversation. Let us inculcate our children about a new Jamaica, teaching them the ways of civility, teaching them the ways of Africa. Let us teach them the ways of black pride and the philosophies and the opinions of Marcus Garvey. Jamaica and Mr. Lorne and those in the diaspora, this is Unfiltered. Stay tuned. Jamaica diaspora, having heard that conversation with Mr. Lorne, it's not pretty out there. It's sad. It's bitter. Many Jamaicans are apathetic. I too am fed up. However, let us charge those at the round table. Let us charge those who are at the policy level. Let us charge all Jamaicans. Should we continue on that category where we can say Jamaica is a failed state? Or are we going to have that conversation where we urge more Jamaicans to become certified? Mr. Lawrence said justice is delayed for many Jamaicans. I want a Jamaica where I elect the Director of Public Prosecution. I want a Jamaica where the police commissioner is answerable, not to those in Parliament, but to the Jamaican people. I want a Jamaica where rote learning is no longer the order of the day. So I said to investors, if you can, your money is here. You pay your taxes, but invest in the people. Without vision, the people perish. So rescue the perishing, care for the dying. Jamaica, we need rescue. We need to be unfiltered with a continuous discussion about a new and better Jamaica. I am Andre Stevens, and this is Unfiltered. Walk good.